What's the most redneck hillbilly thing you witnessed? Neighbors grilling food over a literal trash fire. They didn't accept the idea that the food was going to taste like burning garbage. Four-wheeler funeral procession. Coffin towed by the lead four-wheeler. When I was a kid, I had a 20-something neighbor who modded his dirt bike to have a gasoline reservoir. But it wasn't intended to provide more fuel for the engine. It was designed to dump gasoline into the exhaust pipe when he did a wheelie, so flames would shoot out the tailpipe as he rode a wheelie down the street. Doug, wherever you are, the Back to the Future flame streak you left on our neighborhood road was legendary. Man, I grew up in the Southwest. I've seen it all. One thing that most people don't know is the redneck hillbilly culture is really clever. They are very practical in their solutions. Here's a useful one. When you are using a truck to pull another truck out of a ditch, use two heavy tow chains and have them linking a rubber tire no wheel inside. Pull the truck out slowly, and when the chains tighten, the tire acts as a shock absorber and it won't pull your bumper off. When I was a kid, Uncle had a still out back in cases of full mason jars in the kitchen. I had no idea what they were until he died, and I was executor of his will. Grew up in rural Illinois. I have a fond memory one winter, driving with Dad when he stopped and reversed back down the street we just came. We stopped and watched as a guy, who had pulled the heavy wooden front door off of his house, ratchet strapped it to the front of his van, and was using it as a plow to clear the driveway of snow. My dad was never a man to just stop and be in awe of something, or paid much attention to what other people were doing, but we sat and laughed at that dude for like 15 minutes. When I lived in Mississippi, my male neighbors called me a snob for refusing to go on their DIY party boat. It was several pieces of chain board lashed to empty plastic oil drum-sized barrels. It floated a few times before a catastrophic failure. Too heavily tattooed ladies wrestling in coleslaw. That's a real thing in Florida during bike week. Please understand, I saw a video of this. Someone my husband was representing took a video and shared it. Welcome to paradise. I had 2 years of hardcore redneck training. I know a man who is essentially the redneck Steve Irwin. If not for meth and trauma, he could have been a legend. He will eat anything. Spiders, gators, squirrels, snakes, those big-ass grasshoppers that nobody fucks with. But the grossest is egg sacs. Once while cruising on a river, he grabbed a big gob of pink eggs that were on the side of a tree and gobbled them up, belched, and then said they tasted like salsa. He had the wicked farts and a pretty bad belly ache later, but in his infinite wisdom relayed one of his great sayings, "Hey, it'll make a turd." I love him, but I don't associate with him or his family anymore. This story is one of the light-hearted ones. He has almost gotten me killed multiple times. I see a lot, but it's just normal where I live. But one that stands out is a guy mowing his yard by riding on a four-wheeler while pulling behind him a push mower. Edited to add that yes, he was mowing around his junk cars in the front yard. Yelling at a small outdoor concert. "Yeah, buddy, I bet you FK your sister," woman's voice from 20 feet away. "Well, some of us like high tea." I was biking home from work. A small pickup truck pulled up to the light next to me. There was a Confederate flag in the back window, which was broken and held together with duct tape. The driver was a heavy woman with yellow teeth, matted hair, and a cigarette hanging out of her mouth. She called me white trash before driving away. Neighbors skinning squirrels. We lived in a nice neighborhood in Orlando. They moved from North Carolina. Not judging, just kinda took me back when I was a kid. But they always brought back firecrackers, including M80s, when they went back for a visit. Good people and good friends. Kid next door hand making a gill net to trap salmon in the creek. Same guy shot a doe at night with a 22 and a flashlight strapped on it, built a smokehouse, and made jerky from the deer. I went with him one night to check it. Shit was delicious. We lived back in the mountains. I went to a friend of a friend's house. I had never met him. The guy came out of his house shirtless, walked up to the car, and pulled a revolver out of the front of his pants and said, "You wanna go shoot this gun?" before introducing himself or anything. Super glue instead of stitches. My step-grandfather, in hunting fatigues, taking my sister and I out on his airboat in the dead of night and showing us the pairs of lights in the rushes along the lake. The red ones were raccoons and the yellow ones were alligators. Shortly after that, he brought the boat into a bush that only had small lights in it. He grabbed a baby gator out of its nest and held its jaws shut with his bare hands to let us pet it. Yes, this is illegal. And yes, he was that kind of hillbilly. Noodling. It was so much fun. Got invited to a cookout some locals were having. They didn't seem to mind standing around the literal trash fire that they started with gasoline because they didn't know how to get a log to stay burning. Lawn jockeys chained to the front porch railing so people wouldn't steal them, which ended up making the whole scene look even worse.